Hey everybody, it's Blu-ray Perry, and it's time once again to talk about the successor to the Fuji X100V. It was only 5 months ago that I made a video where I talked about what I thought would be the changes we would see in the successor to the Fuji X100V. And I also said in that video that because the V has been selling so well and doing so well, that I didn't think that Fuji would be coming out with a successor for at least 2 to 4 years. Well, I've never claimed to be the most accurate Swami in the world on this channel, because Fuji Rumors, FujiRumors.com, is reporting that Fuji will announce in the first quarter of 2023 the replacement for the Fuji X100V. Fuji Rumors has a very good track record when it comes to these things. And so I tend to believe them. We are going to see sometime in the next year, sometime in the later half of a year from today making this video, sometime in the first quarter of 2024, we are going to see Fuji's announcement for the next camera, the Fuji X100V. Now, let's talk about this for a second, because a lot of people are saying this, and you know, I've been guilty of this too. The Fuji X100V, you can't get it right now. Right? They're coming into stores, they're selling as fast as they come in. People are selling them used for more than they go for retail. And so a lot of people are saying, why are they coming out with a successor camera? And I'm one of them, because this camera is so good right now. I just can't imagine what you're going to do to it to make it better and to make it worth upgrading. And I think there's a couple of things that we're looking at wrong here. First of all, cameras don't get made in a couple of months. So like the minute a new camera gets announced from Fuji, like the next week, the team starts on the next one, because they try to get these cameras out every couple of years, and it takes a couple of years. You got to design these cameras, you got to put them through mock-ups, you got to come up with ideas, you've got to change software, you've got to change hardware, you've got to retool the factory. There's a lot of work that goes into producing a new camera. It takes years to get it together and to get it ready for launch. And some of the things that plague the X100V are going to, affect the next one. I'm sure some of their supply problems are going to affect them. But the bottom line is, you can't just put it off. You can't just go, you know what? I think we'll just put off the launch of this camera for a year. Because if you do that, your camera's not going to be new anymore. I mean, that's why they come out with them so quick. The shelf life is very short on electronics. You put out a new piece of electronics and it's a hot new thing, and 18 months later it's not the hot new thing anymore, because someone's come out with something that's better. And that's the problem here. If they've been working on this camera for 2 years and they feel like they're ready to announce it, then they need to announce it and get it out there. Because if they don't, if they say, we'll hold off for another year because the V is selling so well, then when they do announce it, we'll be like, really? You don't have the new AI that scratches your back? Because all the other new cameras have the AI that scratches your back. Right? They can't do that. They got to get it out. They got to get it out as soon as possible. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, yeah, it's hard to get the X100V, but that camera is probably not being made on the same assembly line as the new camera is going to be made. So from Fuji's point of view, if they come out with a new X100V camera, that camera, they'll now have 2 cameras that are in production, because they won't stop making the V when they come out with the new one. Not right away. They will eventually, but not right away. So now they've effectively doubled the supply chain of getting these cameras into the hands of the consumers, a supply chain that right now is 3 months behind. So it's actually a good thing in that respect. As far as Fuji is concerned, we're able to get more cameras on the market to sell. So when you think of it like that, it just makes sense, because it's good for their bottom line, and also they're under the demands of having to get a camera out. You can't just hold back on a camera. So we also have to ask what they're going to call this thing, because they've run out of names. It was really easy in the beginning, right, to say that there was the 100, and then there was the F for first and the T for two. And I'm sorry. It was the 100F. The F was first, and then the S was second, and the T was third, and the F was fourth. All right. It's early. So it was the 100, then the S for second, and the T for third, and the F for fourth, and then the V for fifth, because it's the Roman numeral V equals 5, because they couldn't use the F again. So now, what are they going to do with the next one? Because people are already saying, they're calling it the X or the Z. I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they'll say something's the X100X. And I don't think they'll say Z because that's the end. And if you say Z, then what's the next one going to be called? I think it's more likely that they're going to call it the VI, the VI, Roman numeral 6, right? The Fuji X100 VI, right? That's what I think is going to happen. And then the next one will be the VII. Because you open up a whole chain of new numbers and letters for them. So I think that's the way that's going to go. That's my guess, and we'll see how that plays out. So let's talk brass tacks, and I want everyone to get in the comments and tell me what you want to see in this camera. And 5 months ago, we made some predictions. We're going to make some predictions this time around too. There's been some changes in the market in the last 5 months. There's been some changes in what we've seen out there, and of course the X100V has blown up. So let's talk about what we're going to see in this camera. First, let's talk about what we are definitely going to see in this new version of the camera. Just a second. We are going to see new film sims because there are new film sims that are in the H2, for example. So what is it? Eternal Bleach Bypass is going to go in there. And there's a new neg that's in there. I'm skipping on what they are, and I only use one film sim, so classic Chrome. So I don't pay much attention to the film sims, but I know there are people who really, really love them. And, you know, we're going to see at least 2 new film sims, and it would be great if they introduced a third. That was, you know, they introduced it with this camera. That's a nice thing that Fuji can do to always make a camera seem a little more special. So there's going to be new film sims, right? Number 1, we're definitely going to see that. Number 2, we're going to see improved autofocus because every time a new camera comes out, they always put the latest and greatest autofocus in it. So we're going to see new autofocus. We're going to see new film sims. Will we see IBIS? I think we will. I think that Fuji has to be moving towards a place, and I think the industry is moving towards a place where in-body image stabilization is standard. That is simply, if you make a camera, it's got IBIS built into it. So I think we will see IBIS in the next iteration of the Fuji X100 line. So those are the 3 things I think are definitely coming. Film sims, IBIS, and what was the other one? Better autofocus. All right. Did I mention that it's early? I'm making this video early. So now what are the maybes? What might we see? Well, we'll see some changes to the body style probably. They always put a few little changes to the body style. The big question is the sensor. Are they going to put the big 40 megapixel sensor in there, the same one they put in the XH2 and the same one they put in the XT5? I think that they will. I think they will put the 40 megapixel sensor in the new Fuji X100. I think that they are, if you look at Fuji in the past, they tend to be like, this is our sensor and we put it into everything, unless for some reason we can't. Like with the XH2S, they wanted the smaller sensor because it made it easier to them to do the things they want to do with video. But for stills, I think we're going to see the 40 megapixel sensor come into this camera. And another thing is there's never been a better camera to get this sensor than the X100V because the X100 has a fixed lens with digital zoom. So the more megapixels you have, the more you can digitally zoom and maintain your quality. So it really makes no sense not to put the big sensor into this camera. So we're definitely going to see that, I think. Maybe, maybe not, but I would be surprised if they didn't put that sensor in the camera. And I think that we are going to see the IBIS, of course, and the other things. The other big one is, between the sensor and the other big one I think that we're going to be shocked to see is a flippy screen. Yeah. What happens if they put a flippy screen in the Fuji X100 line? Now, here's something I really want to hear from you about, because we know what happened with the XT line. Right? Everyone loved the XT3. Then they put the flippy screen in the XT4 and people lost their minds. And then they came out with the XT5 and they took it away. And they went back to the XT3 screen and everyone, oh, thank you, thank you. We don't like the flippy screen on the XT line. And they don't have a flippy screen on the Pro line. So does it go on the 100V? Here's the thing. I'm with you, right? I like the screen flush the way it is. I like that you just pop it, you know, if you want to go low, or you flip it if you want to go high. I like that. But there is no denying that this screen does not have the versatility of a flippy screen. Where's my flippy? Because with this screen, I can go high as I want. I can go, I can go straight down. I can go as low as I want. I can go straight down low. And I can flip it around like this and see when I'm taking a picture of myself or a picture of my family or something like that. And I am a person who does that a lot because I make a lot of videos. So I'm not necessarily the person to speak to this because the way that I use the Fuji X100 line is different than the way probably most people do, because a lot of times I'm taking pictures of myself. Because anytime I want to test out something about white balance or exposure or whatever, I always grab this camera. I don't grab my big camera. I grab this camera because I can throw in a travel tripod, really easy, really light, go out in the backyard, and I can test out my theories. But when I do that, I can't see myself framed up in the camera because I can't flip the screen around. And I also use this camera a lot with family events. And on Christmas morning, I always take a picture of my family with this camera. And not being able to flip it around, that becomes a problem. I say I always take it with this camera, but no, I'd probably go get my other one because of the flippy screen problem. Maybe not, because I can frame them up and then I jump in the frame. But my point is, personally, yeah, I would like a flippy screen. But the camera already shoots 4K video, right? So if they put IBIS in here, with 4K video 30 frames per second, 1080p at 120 frames per second. If they put a flippy screen in here, now this screen becomes much more vlogger, and video oriented for people who want to do that sort of thing. Now it's not completely because you can't zoom and you can't change lenses, but it still makes it much more practical for that sort of work. So I personally would like to see a flippy screen. Don't crucify me for that because you probably think that that's heresy. But feel free to get down in the comments and tell me why they shouldn't do it. They should just stick with the other cameras that have the flippy screen. So the flippy screen is a big deal. Now let's talk about the dreams. Let's talk about what we want if we can have anything. And it's funny that I'm going to put this in the dream category. A better battery. Now you think, well, that's your dream category? I would think that would be pretty easy. I mean, cameras are always making their batteries better, right? They are making their batteries better. But the problem with Fuji, come out of there, you. Can I not get my battery out? There it is. The problem with Fuji's battery with the X100 series is that it has to be a certain size. So we've yet to see them take this battery and make it better. In any camera that had this battery, like that, if they wanted to make the battery better, they switched. They went to the big batteries, the ones that go in the XH2, the ones that go in the XT5. They switched to the bigger battery. So the question comes, if that's the case, they can't make the battery better without making it bigger. Can they put the bigger battery in this camera? And I don't know if they can. You know what? Let's do this real quick. Let's take this battery out. All right, so here's the battery that's in the XH2 and the XT5. And here's this. So right? Maybe. But it would definitely take up a lot of room because, look, there's the battery, right? And the card slot is right there too. So I don't know if they can put this battery in this camera without fundamentally changing the shape of the camera. And I don't want them to do that. I don't think anyone wants them to do that. I will live with having to carry an extra battery around or whatever rather than have the shape of the camera changed. Although the camera could be a little bit bigger and I'd be fine with that because I have big hands. So I would be happy if the camera was a little bit bigger. I'd be fine with that. Like halfway between here and the X Pro, I'd be fine with that. But no, so it's a dream for me. Can we get a bigger battery? That being said, the small battery, I can live with it, especially since you can just plug the camera in and charge it. So that's a dream. Somehow, miracles, give me a battery with twice the time and twice the images without seriously changing the camera. That's kind of a miracle thing that I would ask for. And then there's this. And this is where I'm really going to... You thought you were mad at me for mentioning the flippy screen. Here's my dream. Here's what I would really love to see happen. Are you ready? Okay. Interchangeable lenses. Yeah. Interchangeable lenses on the X100V. Now, Now I know I bought the Fuji X100V because specifically, and I also bought the F and I also bought the S. I bought them specifically because they did not have interchangeable lenses. I wanted the fixed lens. I wanted to be just forced to work with what I have. I didn't want to carry around all that gear, and I still don't. However, if I could design the perfect camera, the X100V, but it was my perfect version of the camera, it would have interchangeable lenses, but it would only have two, and they would be designed specifically for the Fuji X100 line. First of all, they would be leaf shutter lenses. They would be specifically designed for the Fuji. They would also be expensive because if they put the shutter mechanism in the lens, it's going to be more expensive. So it would make the whole rig more expensive, and it would definitely catapult the X100 series into more of an elite niche camera for dentists, people who really have a thing for it, like Leica. However, hear me out. What if they were just two lenses? Just two. They were small, they were compact, they were prime, they were f2 lenses, even better f1.4. There were two lenses. One of them was 16 millimeters, which is a 24 millimeter equivalent, which is wider than what we have now. With digital zoom, and I wrote these numbers down to make sure I didn't forget them, you can go 16 to 24 or to 35, because that's what the camera currently does. It goes half again or double. So 16 to 24 or to 35. So 16 millimeters to 24 is like 24 to 35. And then once you get to 35, you're talking about 50. So you've got one lens that is the equivalent of 24 to 50. 16, 24, 35. And then the second lens is 50. So you get one that's 16 and one that's 50. And the 50 millimeter lens can go to 75 or 100, which makes that lens equivalent to 75 millimeters or 130 millimeters or 200. Right? Did I get the 200 part right? No, like 150, somewhere along that line. I don't know. You figure it out. Long. You would have two lenses on your camera that would give you a range between 16 millimeters and 100 with just two lenses, and they wouldn't have to be that big. When you look at the add-ons that they already have for this camera and how many people buy them, how many people buy the wider add-on? I do. How many people buy the telephoto? I didn't because it was too big, but I know a lot of people did. It would not be outside the realm of possibility to say, you know what, we're going to have this camera now come with just two possible lenses, and along with the digital zoom and the 40 megapixel sensor, you're going to be able to get good images all the way from 16 to 100. That would be huge. That would be the digital equivalent of 24 to 150. 24 to 150 is a huge range. I would love that. And quite frankly, I would pay just about whatever they asked me to pay for it. I can't imagine it would be less. The camera with just one lens would probably be close to $2,000. And the second lens might be $1,000 on top of that. Because again, building leaf shutter lenses is expensive. But wouldn't that be awesome? Or am I just crazy? Should I be burned at the stake for even suggesting that the Fuji X100 line should not have a fixed lens? I don't know. Let me know. Let the flame wars begin down in the comments. And if I didn't think of anything, because the other day someone said to me, I wish the neutral density filter was an 8-stop neutral density filter so that I could do bright sunlight, long exposures. And I'm like, that's okay, I get that, but I don't think it's practical. I don't think most people are doing that. And I don't want to give up my 4-stop neutral density filter so you can have an 8-stop. So I don't think it's very practical, but I get that you would like to have that. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what you think will definitely come, what you think might come, and what your dream is for the next line of the Fuji X100. Hey, don't forget to follow me on Facebook. I have a group. It's called Pro Photo Talk with Blu-ray Perry, and it's a great group. If you have questions and comments, you can jump in there and join the conversation. Also, follow me on Instagram at Blu-ray Perry, and also follow me on Threads. If you haven't started using Threads yet, I like Threads. I'm trying to use it more and more and more. I would really like to get Instagram back to a place where it's more about photographs, and then Threads would be more of a place where it's about conversation and memes and funny stuff like that. So follow me on both of those. If you have one, you pretty much have the other. You do have to download Threads, but you've already got an account. If you have an Instagram account, you already have a Threads account with all of your followers. So if you're following me on Instagram and you download Threads, you'll automatically be following me there. So be sure and follow me there if you can. Check out all my gear, which is down on the gear page. Go look through all the stuff that I carry professionally and the stuff that I carry with my Fuji X100 line and see if there's anything you need. And if you click one of those links and you end up buying it, I make a couple of dollars and it helps me to keep this channel alive. And don't forget about the camera nerd gear. I'll edit all this out. The camera nerd gear, which is down there. Get yourself a shirt that says one camera, one lens. This shirt will have to change. If my dream comes true, this shirt has to go, doesn't it? I hadn't thought about that. Okay, that's all right. I'll change it. I'll change it if they make it. They're not going to do it. You know they're not going to do it. They're absolutely not going to do it. But if they did, I would have to come up with I still have this for the purists, but I would have to come up with a new slogan for the Fuji X100 line of cameras. So anyway, check out my store too, which is right below this video. More coffee, please. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.